What is that, booktube? It is Monty. And so I just wanted to come in here, obviously from editing, and say that the video is desynced from my audio. And this is a 30-minute video. I have absolutely no desire to refilm this. I could refilm it, but I have no desire to refilm it and relive this book. And so what I'm going to tell you is that the image is not going to change. You're probably going to see the thumbnail for the rest of this video after the intro. And it's just going to be that. I'm going to separate the audio out, and it's just going to be a podcast kind of a day. So hopefully you're enjoying your Thursday, and I'll see you again soon with another video where I'm actually, in it, and it's not just a thumbnail, but that's what's going to happen today. What is up, booktube? It is Monty, and today I am back once again with the start of another video. It is currently Thanksgiving. Hi, hello, welcome. It's only 3:43, so y'all might see this video on the same day that I film it. It might be that kind of a day. So over the past week or so, I think on Monday I did some reading sprints. Time is, who knows what time is. And then yesterday on Wednesday, or it might have been Sunday and Wednesday, I know for sure on Wednesday, I did some reading sprints where I read Bloodmarked by Tracy Dion. This is the second book in the Legend-Born cycle. And I didn't like it. Okay, I gave Bloodmarked 1 star. I was never going to come on this channel and talk about this book. And then again, like I said, I was minding my business and I got pulled into some Twitter mess. And I said, you know what? Twitter's not monetized. Twitter's not monetized, but my YouTube channel is. The YouTube channel is monetized. Here I am to talk about Bloodmarked. Now, if you were in the sprints, you got the real time tea. The real time tea about how I felt about this book. And I'm going to say that, did I go into this book with an open mind? I can't lie to y'all. I didn't. I did not go into this book thinking that it was going to revolutionize how I viewed the Legend-Born cycle. Now, full disclosure, I read Legend-Born, I don't know, like 2 years ago now, maybe. I know I was in Kansas when I read the book, so it had to be within the last 2 years I read Legend-Born. And I thought it was fine. Originally, I gave that book 3 stars. It was a cute book. I didn't think that it was anything that was for me. I didn't think that it was particularly, I want to say revolutionary, because I don't think a book has to be revolutionary for like somebody to go out and read it. A lot of the books that I read, a lot of the books that I give 5 stars to are not revolutionary texts. But for me, I just didn't think Legend-Born was doing anything. And so, it was cute. Whatever, 3 stars. I moved on with my life. In the process of me moving on with my life, I talked to other readers, and other readers brought things to my attention, and I said, you know what, that's right. Let me go ahead and lower that rating. So I walked into Bloodmarked having rated Legend-Born a single star. So you can see the expectations, they're not there. But just because I go into a book with no expectations doesn't mean anything. I went into a book earlier this year, Young Jane Young by Gabrielle Zevin, thinking it was going to be whatever. One of my favorite books of the year. I went into The Burning God, having given the first 2 books in that series 2 stars, thinking they were, okay, I understand the enjoyment factor here, but it's going to be another 2 stars because the rest of the trilogy had been 2 stars. Burning God, again, pleasant surprise, 4 stars, one of my favorite books of the year. Cemented R.F. Kuang is one of my favorite authors before I ever touched Babel. So I want you to understand that just because I go into a book with low expectations doesn't mean that I'm not open. Doesn't mean I'm not open to being pleasantly surprised, okay? I might go in expecting this to be just some raggedy trash that I have to get through and move on with my life, but that doesn't mean it's going to actually be raggedy trash. And I wouldn't even say that Bloodmarked is raggedy trash. I do stand by the fact that it's bloated. There are a lot of plot lines in Bloodmarked that go nowhere. And so let's start the actual review, shall we? I will say that if you have not read Bloodmarked, probably not the video for you. I don't think there's really a way to have a conversation about most second books in a series, but this second book specifically, without me getting into the nitty gritty of all the things that I thought were poor performance, specifically when I'm looking for them to address the issues that I had in the first book. So if you haven't read this book, I understand it's only been a couple of days, couple of weeks or whatever since this book came out. I think it was like November 8th. So there hasn't been a whole lot of time. I respect that. I understand that. But It is what it is. So, Bloodmarked, we pick up a couple of weeks after the events of Legendborn. So everyone has been in kind of a holding pattern. There's this High Council situation that I guess rules over the Legendborn people. And they've been telling people, hey, go about your lives as usual, go to class, take your test, do everything that you should be doing as a student. Which, again, I thought was kind of weird. That was funny. I got a little chuckle out of that because in the first book, you'll know that like any fantasy, specifically in urban fantasy, when teenagers are present, school is not the priority. School is not the priority. And the more that I read of Bloodmarked and the least involved, that was horrible. That was horrible grammar. But the further I got into Bloodmarked, the more I was confused as to why this was a YA, why we were studying this in a school when like none of these things are mattering. None of these things are mattering. It would have been much more, I think, potent if this was a young adult, like a new adultish age. Although not even a new adult, but just like a regular adult book. I think that the same kind of tropes and things that are played with here are played with in a like the Blood Trials by Annie Davenport. I didn't like that book either, but I think that they're similar enough where now there is this space specifically at places like Harper Voyager, like Adele Ray, like an Orbit's trying to get in on this game, Taurus trying to get in on this game. There isn't, I mean, obviously when Legendborn came out, the market wasn't quite there yet, but we're in a space now where there are a lot of traditionally published stories where they have this kind of gray space age main character, and Bree being 16 years old, I'm sorry, it's a wrap. She's insufferable in the school that she is set in to make this a YA novel. The whole reason this is set at a university campus, all of these things to like give you the trappings of YA don't matter. They don't matter. And so with reading this with this character feels fucking foolish, but I digress. That's a side tangent. So the High Council is telling these children, hey, go about your lives. We're going to be there for the funeral in a couple of weeks or whatever. And just keep it on lock. Bree, don't tell anybody that you're Arthur. Don't tell anybody that you're him. We can't let that get out. We're going to keep that on lockdown. Bree's a little bit uncomfortable about this, but she's like, you know what? Got it. Good. Whatever. I'm just trying to I really want to get Nick back. I'm trying to, she got all these emotions going on there, which again, I think is weird that your love interest is, the descendant of this man who raped your ancestor that you had to relive in the last book. I'm sorry. I'm never getting over that. Never getting over that. You are never going to sell me that this is a fun, wholesome little YA journey processing grief and what it means to be a strong person when part of the story was our main character reliving the rape of her ancestor by her love interest, great grandpappy. Fucking weird. Y'all are weirdos. Anyway, she wants to get to Nick. At first, if you watch the first sprints that I was doing, I was like, I don't like that storyline. I don't really care about Bree going after Nick, but what I didn't know, bitch. Because if I had known then what I know now, wholeheartedly would have endorsed that plot line. This entire book could have been saved if that was the plot line. But as we get on, we see why that could not be the plot line. So we're still at the beginning. We're going along to get along. The High Council is coming. The funeral happens. There's a couple of new characters introduced. We get to see Bree interacting with these High Council people. We get to, get a lay of the land. We think that Bree is going to take her place as, the Arthur Scion because we know the end of the world is happening. That was kind of what was happening in the last book, that Old Man Davis was like, this is an abomination. But we're gonna bring about the end of the world or whatever. So the end of the world is like impending. The only person that can stop it is Arthur. Bree is Arthur, so she's thinking she's set, she's Gucci, she's gonna do the little King's Right passage. She gets knocked unconscious don't know if she gets actually knocked unconscious, but we find out that the High Council is not about that. The High Council is not at all interested in homegirl taking on the actual mantle of going through this rite. So in the middle of the thing, they it's a wrap for her, right? They lock her up, they hit her over the head or whatever. It's a wrap. I'm saying these things knowing that if I'm not 100% actual, that the Tracy Hive is going to be in the comments trying to drag me for you didn't even read the book, you don't even know what's happening. But that's what I was getting, during the rite of the passage or whatever, it goes left. And then we find out that the High Council that's ruling over the Legendborn is like low-key racist, which isn't a surprise because everybody in this organization is white. Everybody here is white. Everyone that Bree talks to is white. She has like a brief conversation with her therapist from the last book at the beginning. She's like, hey, the High Council's on the way. The High Council is bringing some Merlins. So, beware, because as you know, the Merlins, they be hunting the Rootcraft people. And as we know, the only people who have been doing Root are black. The only people who are doing Root are black. And while technically the Merlins are like half demon, half human or whatever, and I guess that means that they could, in theory, be any ethnicity. Everyone that we've met so far is a white person. It's a racist institution. And so it's you in danger, girl. Bree's in danger because she is trying to beat Arthur, who is like over the little council people. But the council people are like, we're not going to be subjugated by a black woman. We're not going to do that. It's not the story. It's not what we want. And so she has to go on the run. Now, it is in this moment where I was seeing a beacon. I was seeing a beacon of hope, because in Bree trying to escape, we get introduced, or this character, I think she was actually in the book a little bit before this, but we get Samira, and Samira's like, hey girl, we're all rooting for you. Like, there's some other there's some Negroes up in here in the High Council, in the Legendborn society, and we're rooting for you. We think it's really dope that you're here. I'm gonna help you escape because I got some aunties and grannies back home, and they do Root, and we think it's real cool that you got Root blood, and so like I'm gonna help you get out. Samira helps homegirl escape, and she's never seen from again. Completely inconsequential to the rest of the story. Which is why I said in my Goodreads review that every black person that Bree talks to, it is a fucking business exchange. She talks to her therapist at the beginning because she wants the therapist to know that the Merlins might kill them if they sense any disturbances in the Force. And so don't be disturbing the Force or you'll get shanked. And then she accepts help from Samira because Samira is going to help her out. But then we never get Samira again. But then what really fucking killed me about Samira's help is, so they escape. They get out of the jail cell, and now it's we got Bree, we have Cell, who is doing some fuck shit. We don't know this at the time, but we know that he's mesmered Bree to not seeing how bad he's doing, and he's like 3 seconds away from going full demon and descending into fucking madness, and like bad shit could happen. So we got Bree and Cell. We got William, who is the scion of Gawain, so he can like heal shit and like break shit. He got like super strength or something. I don't really know. All he do is act as the healer. And Alice, because unlike the first book, Alice actually has stuff to do in this one, which again, I think that because, listen, I think it's really great that Alice is an Asian character and she got more to do in this book, and we find out that she can't be mesmered because of some fuck shit that happened in the last book, so like she won't be on the know for the rest of the series or whatever. But I think this really was a missed opportunity for this not to be a black girl. It really does bother me that fucking Bree has no meaningful relationships with black people. It does bother me. It bothers me. And at least in the first book, you kind of got those scenes with her going to the therapist, Patricia, until she got to have that connection. And she kind of got to talk to her dad a couple of times, I think. And I think she talks to her dad once in this one, but like she doesn't talk to her dad. She doesn't have any like siblings or anything because of, the situation with her little family lineage. And so she doesn't get to talk to her therapist. We do get like an entire organization of like black people that comes in this, like in the second half of this book, but like even them, I don't think that they are like a meaningful connection with this girl. And so it's just like Bree is out here by herself, and it was one thing in the first book, right? In the first book, you had this black girl at this predominantly white institution that had no black people. She wasn't seeking out blackness to be a part of. She wasn't doing anything. She was just kind of existing there. And so it's like, okay, cool, whatever. But then at the same time, in the second book, when she is surrounded by black people, after the beginning of the book, lamenting the fact that it wasn't fair, or, I don't know if fair is the right word, but the beginning of the book, there's a scene where Cell is around these other Merlins, and she's commenting to herself like, oh, it's this, he gets to have this community and I'm all alone. It's just me. And it's just like, but girl, even when she is in the presence of other black people, she is not actively making connections with these people. Like, she's not actively seeking them out. She is like, the only reason that she is ever talking to her ancestors is so she can get answers to figure out how to like fight this thing, or like how to use the magic. She's not trying to like connect with them to like know them. So it's very weird. I'm sorry. It's just very weird in a series about ancestry where half of the abilities that she has is connected to this group of women that have sacrificed everything so that the family line could continue, so that Vera would be able to get out of the situation that she was in that field. It is very weird for the culmination of all of that, to be so removed from blackness. To be so removed. And in the first book, you could argue again that she was isolated, but I think in the second one, she is isolating herself. She is isolating herself. It is weird. It is very, very weird. Anyway, so they get out, they escape. And this is where you think, okay, she's escaped the little race. I called them the magical KKK because that's what they are essentially. So it's like, okay, we had the funeral. She's escaped the KKK. They're going to go looking for Nick. They're going to go look for Nick. It makes sense. Go look for him. You're out. You can do it. Go find him. And then they're like, no, we can't do that because we can't trust Samira. Because I think in the escape, there was like this other altercation where some stuff was like compromised. And so they were like, yeah, we can't trust the information. Like, we can't trust the intel that Samira gave you. We don't know if it's like up to date or not because we know we can't trust the High Council. And while she helped you escape or whatever, the information that she had might be outdated by the time that we try to go get him, and so it just wouldn't work. And when I'm listening to that, I'm reading the pages, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. It makes sense. Like, if the council knows that one of their own betrayed them to like help the people escape, like, of course they're gonna like switch it up. But I think that we couldn't go get Nick because when the book eventually switches back to that plot line and they are going to find Nick, it takes them all of like 2 chapters. So instead of going to find Nick at this point in the story, what they do is they go on this journey undercover and they're like, we're going to go on the run. We're going to be on the lam, and they go to like get some fake IDs. And it's like, what the fuck are fake IDs going to do? Because we know the Legendborn got people everywhere. They're in the government, they're in the FBI, which is, the government, but like they're literally everywhere. They're in the high class, the low class, you name a situation, like a place for the Legendborn to be, and they are there. They have a person there. So it's like, what is your fake ID going to do? Like, and again, like there's 4 of you and hundreds of them. So I don't understand, like, what, like, do I think that like the fake idea plot line or like going undercover was like a bad idea? No, like not inherently, but I was, just venting to myself, like, what are y'all going to do? Like, what is this actually going to do for you? Like in a world with magic and shit, like what are some fake IDs going to do? Like, what are they really going to do? And so eventually this leads us to this underground club situation where people have gone to like make deals with the devil. And this eventually will like include a little underground railroad plot. But at this point in the story, it was giving Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. In the scene where it's like Grover and Annabeth and Percy and they're in Vegas and in that little hotel, that's what the scene was. It was a 2022 version of that scene. And I wasn't feeling it. I didn't really care for it. I mean, I think that's where we started to get more Black people. And we got to like learn some kind of like fun trivia history about this world, but I didn't care. Wasn't invested, didn't matter to me. So we're in that spot for a long time. And that's really why the book felt bloated, because we were going on this, like, we're going to go on the run storyline, but we were just kind of just sitting around doing nothing. I felt like we weren't really doing a whole lot. We were just in this club. And then we went from this club to, I think it was like a dream walk, a memory walk with Nick. There was a couple of those in this time frame. And then we found out that like they knew where Nick was and they went to find him, but he had like gone somewhere else and they couldn't go get him. And so they went back and then they found their way to the Underground Railroad, but it wasn't like the Underground Railroad. It was just an Underground Railroad, which isn't, I think, bad. I think there was a recent, it might have been a YA, but it might have been a middle grade series, The Conductors, which was like a take on the Underground Railroad. I think there was magic over there. It looked really cute. It's been getting some praise. So like, I'm not against like a Black story giving us the Underground Railroad or a Underground Railroad, but at this point, so many things I found had been foolish that it was like, of course we have an Underground Railroad. So like, okay, so now we're on the Underground Railroad and we're going to safety, trying to, escape from the fucking KKK. And they wind up going to a plantation. But the group go to the plantation. They have to have special permission for everybody but Bree, because the ancestors decide who can come on the plantation. So they get a white pass and the white people come onto the plantation. And we're just kind of there for a minute. I think it's in this moment where Bree is kind of trying to like cycle through all of the generations before her to understand this other plot line that's brewing with this this other entity who's becoming like the antagonist, like reluctant ally person. It's foolish, but that's been brewing in the background for a while, that there's this third party that was in the deal. So we know that Vera made this deal from the first book, and in this book we learn that like I think a demon like hicked onto this deal, like they hitched themselves to the deal, and so that might be why all these people are dying in your family, and you need to get to the bottom of this. And so she's trying to go through all these people again. She's not reaching out to these women to like better understand them, or like what they've been through, or how what they went through impacted them, and anything about that, or like living with grief and living through your grief, and just, you know, being surrounded by grief as you live, because all of these generations of women before them suffered the same things that she did, except for Vera, obviously. And then she has the nerve to like, she gets like this close. Homegirl's like this close from fucking cursing out her great whatever grandmammy Vera. Mind you, Vera was a slave, raped on the plantation, or like just outside the plantation, and she has the nerve to summon her back to a plantation to yell at her and get this close to cursing her out. Y'all, why are we doing this? Why are we acting like you could just curse out your dead relative on a fucking plantation? Talking about, oh, Vera needed that. Vera deserved that. Y'all are bold. Y'all are bold. Y'all are real fucking bold. Couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. First you got me on the plantation. Now you want me to curse out my dead relative on a plantation where they were lived and they were not. Y'all are wild. Couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. And so Vera doesn't give her an answer. And she gets real big mad, and she like lights a hole in the protection dome, which luckily doesn't do anything wrong. Doesn't like fuck anything up. I think it might have been like right before this, might have been right after this moment, but at some point there is a battle. Like the High Council, they figure out what's happening. They roll up. I think it was after this. I think they roll up after she has this confrontation with Vera, but it might have been before. Again, I was never planning to come here and talk to y'all about it. I was never coming here to do that. But at some point in this general vicinity of events, the High Council is rolling up, and they're like, we're going to take you. We're going to take you. So now you have brought the KKK to the plantation. And of course, you know, they can't get in because the ancestors won't let them in. So I think they like go out to throw some fisticuffs. And it's at this point, or it might have been when she was trying to go get Nick, at some point, again, this is all that you need to know, is that at some point in this book, Bree literally gets ripped apart. Like, she gets a hole ripped through her torso. I don't know why that was such a tongue twister, but she has a gaping wound. Her body is like literally flayed open, bleeding out for the world to find. Tell me why this bitch don't die. Tell me how we get a scene with her waking up like 3 days later, and William, the little scion of Gawain, coming in talking about, yeah, you know, usually the Merlins, they can like make a hammer, or they can make a battle axe, or they can make like a shield. You know, they can Wakanda forever that bitch. But Cell, he did something we've never seen. We've never seen this, but he held you together with magic. He gave you magical stitches, and he held you together so you wouldn't bleed out, so you wouldn't die of necrosis, so your organs would be properly oxygenated. And I said, okay, listen, it's like, I am real okay with it being hand wavy magic, but for 3 hours, this man held her together for 3 hours. Doing some fucking surgery for 3 hours on some. I'm sorry. You should have just killed her. You should have just killed her. How do we get here? It was like, no. So, and that's not even getting to the end of the book where the KKK gets fucking Nicholas, and then Bree is out here making a deal with the hunter, who is the demonic energy that was there at the night of the deal. Who was like, yeah, I've been looking out for you, hoping you would get more stronger. So like when I eat you at the end of your life, I'll have all this power. And so now, there was like, and that's just me skipping over the whole part of the book where, that's how the so the ancestors didn't let them in So they were surrounded and things were looking rough. And Arthur was in Bree's head talking some shit like, this was after. So she got flayed open before this battle. But after this, so when the KKK rolled up to the plantation, when the KKK rolled up to the plantation, Arthur had been in Bree's head and he was like, yeah, you need to let me out because I have the strength. And then we had this situation where Bree wasn't really Bree. She was like locked in her conscious, like her subconscious or whatever. And Arthur was the person in control of her body. And he was like, it was weird. It's also very weird when you think about this as a white thought process, as, you know, using the meat suit of a black woman. Again, very weird, very weird. And Arthur was very much for the KKK. He was very on the side of the KKK. It was very weird. It was very didn't like it. And so that's when we get to the end of the book, and and you have Bree making this deal with the demonic energy that Vera didn't even know she was making a deal with, and the book is over. And so I say this book is bloated because it introduces a lot of ideas. And separately, I think they're really solid ideas. I think that the going to hunt Nicholas, you know, is a cute moment, but when they do that in the book, it's actually like 2 chapters because Bree just does a little memory walk and she knows instantly where he is and how to get there. And so then they go there and they miss out. I think that's when they get attacked. They get like bum rushed. So you get that scene. Then you get scenes where like Cell is like holding people together for 3 hours with magic and keeping them from bleeding out. You get this whole Underground Railroad arc. You get the plantation arc. You get this arc where Bree is speed running through her ancestors trying to find answers that aren't really satisfying. And then you get this end of the book where Arthur is this like on the side of the KKK and like trying to bring about the end of the world. And then you have Bree making a deal. There's like 7 little plot threads here. And all of them are good, but the book itself, even though it's 500 pages, doesn't have enough time to, I think, adequately give any of them what they're due. Separately, in enough time to actually delve into these things, I think would have been fine. If it actually took some effort to get Nick, would have happened over 500 pages. But because everything is so easy, it's just like we had to keep finding new things. And so she can't find Nick because Nick is trying to get revenge. And so she shows up, but then he's not there. And so then she gets flayed open. And so now we have to go back to the lounge and go on the Underground Railroad and get her to the plantation where they're being held together, and this is where the resistance is. It's just a lot. It's a lot of it's a lot of good ideas with bad execution. And so it's just not for me. It's just not. If you read this book and you enjoyed it, I am genuinely happy for you. I'm genuinely happy that you had an experience that I wish I could have had. I wish I could have had the experience that you did, but I didn't. I just didn't. And there's going to be no changing that. There's just no changing the experience that I had. And so based on what I have read in this book, Bloodmarked, there's no way I can see this being a trilogy. There's no, at least as far as I know, there's no, I think maybe there's like a rumor it's supposed to be 4 books. It's called a cycle. To me, a cycle should at least be 4 books, but there's no way that you could wrap up what you have set out here in another book because we don't understand anything that's happening here. It's just too much. There are too many balls in the air for anything that Tracy Deonn does next to feel satisfying. And so I'm happy that Tracy is getting the checks. I'm happy that checks are clearing. I'm happy that Simon Teen is promoting her books the way that they are. But I do think that they are being promoted the way that they are because the blackness is decentralized. Like, I don't see, when I see people talk about Bree and I see how they like react to her, it is not the same character that I'm reading. I don't see a character who has a brain cell to rub against another brain cell. Like, and that's very harsh because she is a child. But at the same time, the only reason she is at Chapel Hill to begin with is because she's supposed to be super intelligent, is because she was in this gifted program and she got into this little special preparatory, like college prep class thing or whatever. It's college prep, high school at the thing. But she's never going to class. She never has a good plan. Nobody in this book series has a good plan. Even Cell, who was like some age, I think Cell's a little bit older. He might be like 18, 19 or whatever. Like, nobody in this book series has a good plan. It's not for me. Okay. It's not for me. And I release it. I'm never going to find out how the series ends, and that's fine with me. It's fine with me because ultimately at the end of the day, unless Tracy Deonn does some stupid fuck shit, then the hunter gets he gets Bree. You know, the hunter ultimately will get Bree's soul or her life essence and all of her power, and the book will be over with her being dead. And so I hate that for her. I hate that for me, and I have no desire to actually see how that plays out. I have no desire to see what fuckery Bree comes up with to subvert this deal that's been running in her family for generations. And so I'm calling it a day. I'm calling it a day. So yes, your favorite book is raggedy. Legendborn is raggedy. Bloodmarked is raggedy. There are better books out there. There are worse books out there. You know, that's just the nature of reading. There are better things and there are worse things. And if this really clicked for you, I'm happy. I'm really happy. But at no point in this book, in Bloodmarked, did I find joy. When I was looking for it, all I found was sadness. And so, having found my sadness, I'm leaving the train. I'm getting off. I'm not continuing. I'm never going to know. And that's fine. But, with all of that, thank you for watching till the end. But I'm going to go and I'm going to enjoy what's left of my Thanksgiving. But I'll see you guys again soon. I'll see you guys again soon in another video. But until then, and until next time, bye.